What's going on, guys? We are back. We are back with the breakthrough transmitter. We have the power output much higher now, and we're at the true zero current consumption state because we increased our biasing battery voltage. We increased it to 45 or 48 volts DC. We wrapped an insulated metal foil sheet around the battery pack, and we connected the green wire off of the foil sheet to the negative, which increased our output at zero input cost. The system can be tuned with ferrite rods. It's almost like we conjure power at the L3 coil on the system when we tune it with the ferrite rods. So I think the way to scale this system up isn't to build multiple units and put them in parallel. It's to drive the system at a higher voltage, a higher DC voltage, at zero current consumption. And the way you maintain the zero current consumption state is you'd have to have multiple DIACs in series, or you would have to use a higher voltage triggering device to achieve that. And I tried to shrink down the battery pack size as small as possible, but that didn't work. What I found out is you need the surface area in the battery pack. It needs a capacitive counterpoise plate to push against. This is basically a self-oscillating dielectric relaxation avalanche oscillator. So it's able to push against the ether to generate power, and it can gate that power in through switching. The only current consumption in the system, which is virtually nothing, is the leakage current inherent to the SiC C3 diode, which is virtually nothing. It's below nanoamps, which is insane. So we're literally conjuring power by gating the ether, and we have output. So this is essentially insane what we just achieved. And for those who say, oh, your meter's not working, you're not reading current consumption, guys, I've been messing with this stuff for years. It's a breakthrough, and I can easily show you the meter consuming current. We're on the most sensitive setting. If I were to use my finger as a high value resistor and bridge the gap between the biasing resistor, our output becomes steady and we consume current, as you see. So my finger is acting as a resistor now, and we're consuming current. So you see that. And then if I use the magnetic field detector, you would detect the field now because we're operating in the magnetic mode, not the dielectric mode. So I'm using my finger as a high value resistor to bridge the reverse biased diode that's triggering the system. So we saw that the system is truly consuming no current. I can also trigger it into the current consuming state by, again, using my finger, by touching the positive rail. As you see, it's steady now and not pulsing. We're consuming current. We're consuming 0.01 milliamps. 0.01 milliamps. So we go back into the true no current consumption state. If we want to scale the system up, we would have to keep using series DIACs or a higher voltage triggering device that's solid state. We would have to keep the surface area large on the battery pack we use. So let's say we use a 100 volt DC battery pack with good surface area on the plates that we wrap the outside in foil. And then we have the wire come off and connect to the negative here on the battery, and we would achieve that true state. So this thing is acting like an AETHER pump to gate in charge. It's insane. So we're running it off of either 45 or 48 volts, can't quite remember. But we're right at the threshold where the DIAC is happy. It'll fire, it won't stay open too long, and we have a more powerful output. Back up a bit. And this thing truly consumes zero current other than microamps, which would be the leakage current inherent to the solid-state biasing diode, which is insane. So, figured I'd get that out there, show that. I can essentially have this trickle charge anything I want, and we're in business. I can keep scaling the DC voltage up, and as long as I maintain the correct series DIACs to have a clean trigger, we'll maintain the no current state, and we'll be extracting power from the pure dielectric field by gating the ether for power flow. So these are all the theories of Tesla, Ken Wheeler, Eric Dollard. If you doubt me, you doubt all of them, and they're the titans that gave you your modern world. So it would be wise to believe what you hear. This work isn't just pulled out of my ass. It's based off of a lot of masters. And for those interested in learning as much as you can, feel free to get our free book on archive.org, linked on our main YouTube page. It would be on our main YouTube page when you click on our channel. That's the best, that's the most reliable spot to get it, and that light got a little brighter. So I hope I'm explaining everything well. The system basically operates off of a pure voltage potential only. The voltage potential triggers through the silicon. Modern science would call it quantum tunneling, but it's not quantum tunneling. It would be a dielectric rupture event, and it's so fast, it's so snap action fast, we essentially consume zero current for a disproportionately large pulsed output at an L3 coil that you can tune. And the schematic is on the posts section, and you can get our free book on archive.org, linked on our main YouTube channel page. So I just can't get over how incredible that is. We got the power output higher. I can have that trickle charge a capacitor or a little battery, and we could essentially do what we want. This never drains. In fact, due to the fact we installed this SiC Cree diode in reverse bias, that diode acts as a regenerative mechanism to, in theory, recharge our battery bank, because that SiC diode is in reverse bias. So any overflow goes back into the battery bank, recharging it. So, which is just insane. That's how it should operate in theory. Something interesting too is when the system is in this pulsed dielectric mode, you don't sense current off of it. It won't beep. This voltage detection wand won't beep near it, which is crazy. But if I do something where I get it to operate in the normal mode, you will sense current. So I'm touching the battery bank, screwing with it. Now you can sense it. So there's a bit of magnetism now to the power, being that I'm touching the battery bank with my hand, screwing it up. Now that I've backed away and I'm not contacting it, we can't sense any magnetism in the circuit because it's pure dielectric triggering, or it's pure dielectricity. So it would be Tesla's scalar energy. Our longitudinal power is what we're seeing. So I'll back up, give you a good look at everything. This battery pack should recharge in theory from the reverse biased regenerative triggering SiC diode. And people say I use a lot of word salad. It's explaining how it is. If you're involved with electrical engineering, you'll hear a lot of word salad. So we don't play around on this channel. We don't do bullshit. We do real electrical engineering built upon the foundations and shoulders of masters. We created this device, which operates off of pure voltage potential only. In a way, it's acting as a scalar broadband receiver, because the whole device is floating. The entire transmitter is floating and uses the ether as a fulcrum to push itself off of, using its internal mass. So that's the theory going online, how it's operating. And a similar device to this probably powers field propulsion craft or UFOs. A much more advanced version of this, which is food for thought. So again, it's high voltage driven. We're using moderate voltage, 45 volts DC. that's the perfect window to trigger our DIAC cleanly for a very abrupt DDT event, meaning a very abrupt dielectric event. So we're snapping the DIAC open for maybe like 0.001 of a second to create this disproportionate output at the L3. And we're basically creating longitudinal power in the system. We harvest it with an L3 coil, and read the pinned comment. It'll also just tell you and describe to you how to build the system step by step. It's very easy. It's just 3 coils, an L1 and an L2 wound opposite to each other to create sympathetic resonance, and the L3 is LITZ wire. And we have a 4.7 nanofarad series capacitor off of each end of the LITZ wire to avoid putting a load on the system. And now our output's a little weaker because it fell and it got a little detuned. See if I can fix it. But anyway, it's the L1 and L2 coils. It's an L1 trigger coil and an L2 power coil, both 24 gauge magnet wire, solid magnet wire, wrapped opposite and over each other in a bucking configuration. The L3 coil is the LITZ coil, which runs your load. It is all the coils in this are 24 gauge. The outer L3 LITZ coil is wrapped in the same direction as the L2 for constructive interference. So I hope I'm explaining all that right. That's pretty respectable output at true zero current consumption input. So again, feel free to replicate the system, get the schematic for free. The way you scale it up, which is easiest, is a higher voltage triggering bank, because the system operates off of pure voltage only. And you want a voltage source with a good surface area and the plates inside. Probably like a 9-volt battery stack, or even just large thin plate batteries would be good. And you're only using the voltage potential to trigger the system, not the current, because the transmitter circuit is floating and it pushes against the ether to conjure power in the L3 is the theory. So again, when you scale it up for a higher DC voltage input to maintain the zero input current state, you have to increase your switching capability, the voltage of your switching device. You want a very clean, abrupt switch. And you do that by either putting DIACs in series or upgrading to a better switching device. So I figured I would show that. It's a remarkable system. Good look around anything, so no one can have any doubt. This is just the ground wire that goes to my heater. It's running off of this little battery pack that should recharge in theory, because as the pulse fires, any excess power from the pulse goes through our reverse bias diode and would flow back into the battery bank. So you'd probably have to have this thing on for a day or two before you see if the pack does recharge. This system completely verifies the fact that the universe is an open system. That Aether theory is absolutely real, and mainstream science suppressed it intentionally to hold humanity back in scientific progress. That's undeniable. You can see the state of the world with how bad it is. You can't really deny it. But if I back up and stop contacting this thing with my leg, we'll go back to true zero current consumption on the meter. So I'm also showing you if I use my finger as a resistor again, we'll see it start to consume power. I'm going to use my finger as a resistor. As you see, there's no problem with the meter. We're not even consuming 1 milliamp. So now we're in the incorrect mode of operation, being the magnetic. I remove my finger, which is acting as a high value resistor. We go back into the special pulsed dielectric output mode, the Tesla scalar mode, and we have energy output with zero current consumption input. The meter's probably glitching a little bit because it has to get used to the fact it's not consuming power again, and I remove my finger. But nonetheless, it goes back to what it was. So yeah, remarkable system. It proves Aether theory. And the fact that modern science tries to claim there was a Big Bang, it's completely contradictory to everything they preach. There was absolutely no Big Bang. I can almost guarantee you that. That would be like saying a battery spontaneously spawned into existence with a full charge and is dissipating energy. It's completely nonsensical. The universe always is and always will be infinite, and the mirror image of the universe is the ether, which is also infinite. So that proves it. The theory is after the 1947 Roswell UFO crash, what they discovered horrified them so much with the technology, well, I should say the technology was so incredible, that it terrified them so much, they intentionally made a half-baked, incorrect version of science, being particle bumping theory, which is wrong, because they're afraid of how freeing the technology is. And if you conform to Aether theory, which follows Occam's razor and is most likely correct, you'll have technologies that are absolutely incredible and mind-bending. I mean, think about it. Do you think any advanced species in this universe travels the universe in a giant fuel-filled pecker, being a rocket? Or do you think they travel using a field propulsion craft, or UFO, powered by free energy? This type of stuff. So, just food for thought. We're literally conjuring power out of the L3 coil, because the ancient word for induction literally means to make manifest that which was not present before. We are operating in the non-magnetic domain, the pure dielectric DDT pulse, or Tesla mode, which we're seeing. The system can easily be scaled up for higher power output by using respectable sized plate batteries in a stack in series to like get 100 or 200 volts DC. Wrap it in foil, insulate it, put a wire off the foil. To maintain the zero input current state, you have to ensure your switching mechanism is extremely sharp, extremely abrupt, and clean, so we don't consume current on the input. We want a very clean, mean, abrupt, unidirectional switch. And the higher you feed the system with for voltage, the more strained your switching equipment will be. You'll have to upgrade to a higher tolerance solid state switch. So I'm using a DIAC, which triggers at 36 volts. If I build this to go at a higher voltage, I would need to upgrade from a DIAC to something different that can handle the higher voltage input, maybe 2 or 3 DIACs in series. So I hope I'm explaining that right. I'm showing that the system operates off of true zero current. It operates off voltage potential and field potential only. It can't consume current other than the leakage inherent to the reverse bias diode. So that's that. It's very interesting. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the Patreon. I could use this to charge a capacitor, a small battery, and we're in business, and it's voltage driven. So yeah, get our free book, and thank you. Hope I explained everything. I'll get a good look at the inside, or right at the light, how the light looks. Make sure this isn't gonna fall. There we go. Back up from it. We're probably at as high as we can push the system without consuming current until we need to upgrade the switch, the abrupt switch. So now I'll disconnect it and give everyone a good look at everything on how it looks. So I'll shut the current meter off. Meter's off. We'll give you a good look at the whole thing. Here's how it looks. Nice good look at it. Outer coil is LITZ, 24 gauge. Inner two coils are solid core magnet wire, 24 gauge as well. We have a flyback diode installed, cathode to collector, anode to base, and To ensure we don't put a load on the system, we put a 4.7 nanofarad series capacitor off each leg of the L3. Bigger capacitor value in parallel on the L3 to make our pulses that we saw at that light strong. So, absolutely incredibly simple. Transistor is an ST1309. The 3 diodes in the system are SIC. I'll give you a good look at them. See if we can get a good look on it. They're the SIC. They're SIC diodes. C3. I'll give you a good look. It's in the schematic too, but I like showing everything on video as well. Let's check on. No, I can't put the light on. But they're SIC diodes and they start with C3. Hopefully you can see it. C3 DO2060, I think. They're SICs, all of them, so they virtually have zero loss in them. And we have one in reverse bias here in place of our 70 megaohm resistor. I demonstrated how when my finger bridges the diode gap, when my finger bridges the diode, you see the transmitter change mode of operation and consume current on the meter. So we know the meter's not glitched. The system wouldn't even turn on if the meter was broken or glitched because we're in current consumption mode to trigger the system with the voltage potential only. So I hope I'm explaining everything right and correctly. You want to see what underneath the board looks like. There's nothing under the board, it's just a test board. Nothing under the desk. In fact, we can even hook the system up again. The system also counterpoises against itself, meaning it'll operate without an earth ground connection, which is very impressive. So I'll hook the system back up again. Make sure we're in position. Make sure everything looks relatively clean. That's how the work zone looks. I have a lot of shit over there. A lot of shit, too small of a space. So I'll hook us up to power. The bottom is where the positive goes in. This is the negative input now through the current meter in series. So I'll show you see how we go through 3 DIACs in parallel, because if you use one, you'll blow it. We'll hook back up. We come back on. Output is a little weak, but we can get the output stronger with a ferrite rod. And there we go. The output is much stronger now. Ooh, it loves to fall. I'm gonna have to fix that, so feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the Patreon. And this work is built off the theories of Ken Wheeler, Nikola Tesla, Eric Dollard, and many others and other titans. People who gave you all of your modern world that you never hear about. You just hear about the idiots who are obsessed with particles and mathematics. Not the people who actually invented things and gave you your modern world. So I explain how the system works. Feel free to replicate it. All information is on our main YouTube channel's page, the post section, and the link to our free book is on the main page. So thank you, everybody. Feel free to replicate it. And yeah, have fun. And, oh, and happy holidays. Happy Thanksgiving. In fact, something I didn't do is see if now we have true loadless wireless power. And looks like we do. Oh, something else I'll show in this video before it's over to show you that we have a dielectric pulse of power that operates off one wire is this will glow just on one end. This will pulse. I have to tune it, I think, and then you'll see it pulsing. I wanted to show that this will work with one wire. It requires a lot of tuning to do, but it will work. See if we can get it in that state. I wonder if you can pick up on it and see it. I think it's very dimly pulsing. Yeah, see it? I don't have it properly tuned, but it's very dimly pulsing in that one wire state. You know what will trigger it stronger? If I earth ground it. So now if I earth ground part of this, it will now trigger in the one wire state, I think. More easy. Maybe it needs the tuning. Try it now. I had this working easily before, but you can very faintly see it, I think. Very faint. Yeah, you can very faintly see it. So, that's that. Feel free to like, comment, subscribe, join the Patreon, get the free book on our main YouTube page site, the schematics on the main YouTube site too on the post section. Thank you everybody. You should watch this video, replicate this thing, and have fun. And remember, if you scale up the DC voltage, you have to increase your switching mechanism to handle a higher voltage, and it needs to be a very clean, abrupt switch. So, thank you.